Coach, just your sort of evaluation of last week's game.
You know, coming off an off week, you know, you're a little leery in my past of starting slow. You know, you typically go out there and it takes a little while to start, but kind of happened in reverse this week. We go out there and, I mean, it seems like everything's pretty easy, and then we get up 21-0 or 21-7, and then we lull for about 2 quarters, you know, and so, you know, it kind of happened in reverse, which, you know, a lot of times when you go out and have a lot of success early and things seem easy, kids tend to relax and get into a lull. And then ultimately, you know, the other team's going to start playing harder because, I mean, they gotta get things going. And so I just didn't think that we did well with getting out of the rut, you know, until late. You know, then we got it 33-28. You know, and really, you know, we felt good. When we got it 33-28, it's like, okay, dust settled, you know, we had a good drive, we're good, and then we could just never match them after that, you know. Then they took it, and, you know, I think that they had a 4th down and converted it and then went and scored, and then we didn't. And so really, we just didn't match them. When it got that time in the game and it was 32-28, you know, there was two critical points in the game, in my opinion, that we failed offensively. When we got up 21-0 and we had a chance to go up 28-7, and we had a wide open guy down the middle of the field and we missed him. You know, I mean, you know, we had 2 or 3 just wide open opportunities that would have put the game 28-7. You know, and then it's a different ball game. You know, and then, but we didn't have that killer instinct when things got to the point where we could really put the game a little bit further. We just kept them in the game. You know, we kept hope alive on their end, and then when the momentum switched and they started doing some things on offense, we wasn't matching them on our side. You know, we were going 3 and out then. You know, and so it's just it was a weird game. Definitely a tale of 2 halves. But the 2 critical points in that game, you know, asking me, you know, looking at it after watching film was those 2 points. I mean, it's 21-7. Heck, you know, we get the ball, and then, you know, we got exactly what we want on 3 different plays. We have exactly what we want, and we execute none of them. And then, you know, and then honestly, one of those plays by itself makes it 28-7. And then when at the end of the game, when we go score, which was a positive, you know, we don't match them. You know, we don't match them. And so we failed in those 2 areas, and ultimately that, you know, was the end all be all.
Griggs made some really nice throws, but I thought this game that he made this was the wildest disparity between them. He was really, really good at times, and then he was really, really not so good at times.
Yeah, I would say that I can see what you're talking about. I mean, because there were some, you probably see what I saw. I mean, there were some opportunities when guys were running wide open that we missed.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, he don't miss those. You know, he's the kind of guy that, I mean, he's such an accurate thrower of the football that's really out of character of him. You know, and this is the only thing I can say to that to somewhat make you feel better, make myself feel better about it, because I played the position and I wasn't nearly as good as any quarterback we had. But a lot of the times, like for instance, the one where Ito slipped up the middle, you know, and there was really nobody, you know. A lot of the times because we talked all week about when we ran that play, the first time, it was probably the structure of the way they played defense, it's going to be wide ass open, you know. And so, but I think sometimes when it happens in the game and they really are that open, it's like, holy moly, you know. And a lot of times when it's a wide open receiver, you tend to miss him because you just try to like, oh, I just got to barely get it to him.
Guide the ball.
And you just miss him, you know. And so I think, I mean, you know, I'm not an expert by any sense of dealing with why people miss and why people don't. But ultimately, you know, when somebody is that wide open, a lot of times you see it miss because it's like it kind of shocks you that the guy's that wide open.
Coach, offensive line, the first, you know, say it's first 18 minutes of the game, really blocked well, really did a good job. And then did they really change a lot of things? Because I noticed in the second half, you run the counter with Griggs, and then you started doing a quicker, instead of waiting, it was a little quicker of a run play. Was it something they did that made y'all want to speed that up a little bit, or did they do anything different?
Well, I mean, not really. I mean, I think that what you're probably seeing is there were some times where the edge was open and sometimes when it wasn't. And when the edge is closed, when there's a guy out there, ultimately the play happens a little quicker because we're anticipating that guy running the backside. And so, you know, I don't think there was anything that they were really doing schematically that changed a lot of things we were doing. Ultimately, you know, I think that you account for effort. You know, I think that they ultimately started playing harder when their backs got against the wall, and we didn't necessarily, and not just up front. I would say overall, whenever they picked up their level of intensity, we didn't. You know, and I think that's really the storyline of the game, in my opinion. I mean, Coach Wooden, you know, I read a book with him, and that's the one thing he talked about all the time at UCLA was it's really about matching effort levels, you know. And he talked about, you know, the three things you can change are effort, scheme, and the human being. And he said the first thing I would change when things aren't going good is effort. You got to play harder. You know, you got to match their intensity, you know. And he said the second thing I change is the human being that's out there. He said the third thing I change is scheme. And he said, and over my 50 years of coaching, or how many ever it was, he said, I never got to number 3, you know. And so ultimately, you know, we got to match that intensity because when defenses are getting, you know, gashed like they were at the beginning, look, they're about to bow their neck. You know, they're gonna tighten up, you know. And when they do, we got to match that level of intensity. We can't stay in the same, we can't get in a lull, you know.
UTSA.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just UTSA, that's a tough defense they got over there.
Yeah, by far the biggest challenge of the year, you know, so far. I mean, you look at, I think they're 1 and 2 statistically in everything. And there's a reason for that. You know, I mean, you look at, you know, the cut-ups of the 4 games, and it's amazing. There's just not a lot of cut-ups. People aren't running a lot of plays against them. You know, they're not on the, you know, they're basically getting a lot of 3 and outs. You know, I mean, they're not facing a lot of 3rd and mediums and 3rd and shorts. I mean, just people aren't moving the ball against them. And so they're really good up front. I mean, I could sit here and point out one guy, but, you know, really overall, they're 6, 7 guys that play in the box are good football players. You know, and I will give them a lot of credit as far as, I mean, they play with their hair on fire. You know, they really do. I mean, they get after it, and it just looks like they like playing football, you know.
Coach, how can you guys learn from Saturday, going forward when you guys do get up on the to just sort of keep the pressure on, foot on the gas type of thing?
Well, I mean, you know, hopefully you learn from every game, you know, and I think you probably learn more when you lose, to be honest with you. It's just the nature of athletics. But, you know, the biggest thing is, you know, in my opinion, is like Coach Hop, he makes this comment after the game, which I completely agree with. I mean, there's blood on everybody's hands, you know, mine included. I mean, I look at that game. I'm not going to get in extreme specifics, but there's multiple things I could have done to help. You know, there's multiple things that Quadre could have done. There's multiple things that Ito could have done. You know, so I mean, everybody can look in the mirror and say, man, you know, if I made that play, we probably have a chance to win. I can definitely look in the mirror and say, you know what? You know, those couple calls right there, I could have done a better job there, you know. And so ultimately, I think that is the process of learning, is like pinpointing those situations where you failed and saying, okay, you know, when those situations come up again, you know, I got to be smarter about it. And, you know, and whenever, you know, as a player in those situations, heck, I got to make that play. You know, I got to, you know, that's the difference in the game. I got to make that play.
Anything else? Coach, thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate it,
Coach.
guys.
Have a good one.
Yeah, y'all too.